What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Brave and Faithful podcast. I'm your host, Raiden Dinicio, and today I have a Marine veteran. He is also the founder and owner of Second Chance Rehab Ranch. He is Michael Parker. Michael, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Appreciate it, man. And before we get started in what you're doing now with your second service, so I mentioned you're a Marine. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about your service? How long did you serve for? And yeah, what was your job and all that?
Yeah, I served 3 years in the Marine Corps as a mechanic on the MV-22 Ospreys. It was a short time. I actually got myself in trouble and got kicked out. So that's why it's so short of a service there.
Okay. Is there anything, you served 3 years. Is there anything that you can kind of take away from the military that's kind of helped you with what you're doing now?
Yeah, there's a lot of, traits that I learned in the military. Never quitting, never giving up. One that's really helped me with starting up my business is improvising, adapting, and overcoming. We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And it rings true. You hit a wall. Well, how do you get through it? That's probably the one that's helped the most. And then just getting knocked on your face a lot. It happens. But getting back up. And I definitely attribute that a lot to my time in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I mean, being in the military and especially in the Marine Corps, right? There's a lot of times where you're tested, but no matter what your job is, and then put you in those positions, which you might think, it might not help you at that time, but as soon as you get out or when you reflect on it, it's like it's helped you to become who you are today. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Like that was actually something I struggled with when I was starting up. When somebody is like, "Why don't you go do this thing?" I was like, "I don't know anything about it." And then the more I started to learn, I realized a lot of what I learned in the military, once you put it in civilian English, it translated over into running a business. And I was like, oh, I guess I do know a little bit more than I thought I knew. So yeah, it definitely helps out.
Yeah, I like how you put it. There's civilian English translated into civilian English. So yeah, so you spent 3 years. A lot of our audience are veterans or active duty. Tell us a little bit about your transition, man. How was that for you? Because it's different for everybody, right? How was your transition?
Man, my transition was quick. Like I said, I found myself in some trouble for some things I didn't do. Now, eventually the truth came out, but they still kicked me out under a general article. So it was 30 days I'm out of the Marine Corps. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare or get ready. It was just, okay, get out, go back. I was in San Diego, so I went from San Diego back to Arkansas. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll go to school. So initially I thought I wanted to go be an aircraft mechanic. That's what I did in the Marine Corps. So I went to college for a semester, was killing it, straight A's. But I realized the stuff that I really enjoyed about being a mechanic in the Marine Corps, I didn't really get to do as a civilian. So I was like, I don't know that this is actually what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I dropped out, and I know there's a statistic that like most service members don't last a year in a job. I definitely felt that. I went and worked at a steel mill for right at a year, and then I quit, and then ended up in Hawaii, worked on a couple ranches out there, and that's kind of where I found my real passion. So it took me a while to actually figure out what I wanted to do. I'd say it took 4 years
Mm.
after I got out before I actually figured out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Or as we like to say, when I grew up.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Michael. What were let me ask you this: what were some of the questions that were kind of coming up? You were thinking about it coming in your head as you were trying to find, your next service, your next things that you were going to be passionate about. What are some of the things that, maybe doubts or questions that you had within yourself that kind of led you to, what you're doing now with the ranch?
Yeah, honestly, at first, it was a lot of discouragement. I had planned on spending 20 years in the military. Uh, that came to a crash, and then it was like, well, what do I do? What am I going to be successful at? I still had this strong urge to serve. I knew like that's what I was called to do, is like serve. So I contemplated becoming an EMT until I happened to be the first person there on a few uh, pretty bad accidents, and saved a couple people's lives, or at least kept them alive until professional help got there. And I was like, yeah, I've got enough trauma of my own. Like I can't imagine doing this all day, every day, and just
Right.
adding more trauma to the trauma that I've already got. Like I don't think I can handle that long term. I was like, I got to do something better. Uh, and it was honestly through my work with horse. Well, back up. As a kid, there was always two things I wanted to be. I wanted to be a Marine and I wanted to be a cowboy. So I was like, you know what? Let's just go try being a cowboy for a bit. So started working on a couple ranches in Hawaii. Uh, like I said, I was dealing with some PTSD issues, and I was a very angry person. You can't be that way around horses because
Right.
they react. They feed off of your energy and uh, your emotions. And so I had to learn to control myself, which did me a lot of good, uh, did amazing things for me. And then, it was kind of through that I started to see, hey, guess what? There's the answer. I can help a lot of other people who are struggling by doing this thing that's helped me so much. So that's kind of how I got to there.
Okay. So you mentioned that you always wanted to be a Marine. You fulfilled that, and you always wanted to be a cowboy. I noticed on your bio, you're a cattleman and a bull rider as well. Did you have experience before going into the Marine Corps with that, or is that something that you found along your journey after the service?
That's all post military. So I actually grew up in an Army family. My dad is still in the Army after 30 something years. So I grew up moving around every few years. So I never really got into that lifestyle. I wanted to. Uh, I definitely loved going and watching rodeos, loved going and watching the PBR and stuff. Honestly, never saw myself riding bulls. That was an accident. Uh, that was a bucket list item that turned into uh, guess you can kind of call it an addiction. Um, but yeah, it was all, I just, since I was two, I wanted to be a Marine. So that's what I did when I turned 18. And then when I was kind of searching for the next thing, uh, I was making good money at the steel mill, but I wasn't happy. I couldn't find something that made me happy. And I'm the kind of person, like, I'm not here. I don't chase the dollars. I want to be happy, and I want to do something meaningful with my life. And I just felt like it wasn't meaningful.
Hmm.
Uh, so I was like, hey, let's go be a cowboy, see how that makes me. And I love it. Uh, wish I could do more of that right now, but when you find starting a business, you spend a lot of time not actually doing what you like to do. You gotta make those calls and do all that stuff. But I can still have the choice to go out there, go ride horses every day, and go ride bulls on the weekend, go do the things that I love. So
Yeah, I think that's important, right? You have the choice to do what you're passionate about and what makes you happy, what makes your life fulfilling, right? And then obviously riding bulls is one of those things, and obviously what you're doing with the ranch now. So let's go into that. Where did this idea with the rehab ranch come about? And how was that experience as far as like building that business? It's a nonprofit, correct?
No, it's for profit.
It's for profit. Okay, so were that, tell us a little bit about the journey, your entrepreneurship journey in building this business up.
Yeah, so I spent 3.5 years in Hawaii. Was out there all the way up until COVID hit. First 2 years I was there, I worked on one ranch, just mostly working with horses there. A little bit of cattle work, not much. But I got to the point there where I like to always be learning, and I felt like there was nothing else for me to learn there. I kind of outgrown my environment, so I left there and went to a different ranch, where they taught me, how to take care of cattle. I did the horse riding as well. I learned lot more there, but they ended up letting me go in the summer of 2019, uh, August 2019, and I found myself homeless, jobless, living out of my car in Hawaii.
Mm.
So I immediately started applying for jobs. Any job I found, I was applying for it. Ended up applying for probably over 100 jobs, and never got so much as a phone call back from any of them. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I am well overqualified to work at McDonald's or whatever this is. Like, and they won't even call me for an interview. Like,
Wow.
what the heck am I doing wrong? So I actually happen to be friends with a life coach. He's an Army veteran, Christian guy. So I reached out to him to see if he could give me some guidance, and he's the one that got me started on this.
Can you
He's
mention
like,
his
well,
name?
his name's Kirby Ingles.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I know. Okay.
Yeah, I hit him up, and I did not expect the conversation to go the way it went. He's like, well, what do you want to do with your life? So I told him all these jobs I was looking at. And he's like, no, no, no. Like, he's like, let me rephrase this. If you could be anywhere in 5 years, where would it be? So I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, you know, I want to do this ranch, and I want to help veterans and other people with trauma. He's like, okay, why don't you go do that? And I was like, bro, I don't know anything about running a business. I gave him like this whole long list. I probably had 15, 16 different excuses on why I wasn't cut out to do it. And
Right.
his answer was short and sweet. He said, all I hear is a bunch of bullshit excuses. And kind of took me back, I was like, whoa, what? And he put me in contact with Chris Hoffman and the Ambitious Vet Network. I went through like a free 10-day program they had and completed it. Kind of built my confidence a little bit. Then I went through another 12-week program that Chris put on, the Ambitious Vet Sprint,
Okay.
and made a lot of progress through that. At that point, that ball's just rolling downhill, and just kept forging forward. Within 3 months of working with the Ambitious Vet, uh, 3 months from when I was unemployed, I had a job. I was starting to get back on my feet. Now, even then, I had to make a choice. I was like, okay, I got money coming in. I can get a home. I can be comfortable, or I can just keep living the way that I'm living, which I know it sounds bad being homeless, but to paint the picture for you, I was sleeping on a beach in a hammock in Hawaii,
In
watching the
Hawaii.
sunrise every morning next to the beach.
Right.
It's not as bad as it sounds. So I chose to continue to be homeless all the way up until March of 2009 or 2020 when COVID hit. But I became more disciplined with how I structured my day. I wake up at 7 or whatever time the sun rose. By 7:30, I was at Starbucks. Would work there until 1. Go to work at 2. Work until close. Get off work. Go to the gym. Get my workout in. Get my shower in. Go to the beach. And that was 6 days a week. Sundays, I didn't do anything but go to church and relax. I was able to keep pushing forward and pushing forward. And of course, COVID hit. So I had to make a choice. Starbucks is closed, so now I don't have a place to work. They closed the beach, so now I can't sleep on the beach or shower at the beach. Gym's closed. Now I can't work out or shower there. So all I had left was a job. So I ended up buying a ticket back home, came back home, and then our I was blessed. Arkansas never really shut down too bad, so I was able to kind of have a normal life, get out, ride horses, uh, continue to, I had a place to work. I had everything that I needed here with my family, so I was able to keep pushing forward and get this thing going.
So a lot of things to unpack there, right? So you first you said that you got a hold of a coach, like a life coach, who helped you, uh, with what you're doing now, basically kind of led you to what you're doing now. Uh, how important do you think it is for anyone who might be in a similar situation? Uh, you know, more of like not knowing what they want to do, kind of lost in finding their next mission or next service, right? How important do you think it is to find some sort of mentor or a coach to help guide you along that way? And also with, you mentioned that you were homeless and COVID hit, right, and everything shut down. did you do you feel like in some way COVID would help kind of led you to what you're doing now?
So the first part of that question, mentors and coaches, absolutely important. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have great mentors and coaches. There's been a lot of great people who've helped me get to where I am. If y'all are watching this and I don't say your name, sorry, but like Chris Hoffman helped me out so much. Otis McGregor, John Krotek, obviously Kirby Ingles got me started on this. Those other three really helped me along the way. There's been a lot of other people that have stepped in and mentored me in areas that I didn't have knowledge or strengths. People that you're kind of like, I shouldn't be sitting here talking to you, because they're that much higher caliber than you. That's where you want to be. I've definitely been and had mentors that I'm like uncomfortable, at first. But that's where you're going to grow and that's where you're going to learn. You got to make yourself be uncomfortable, but you also got to be open to advice, and you got to surround yourself with like-minded people. And I was lucky enough to find a bunch of veteran entrepreneurs who are like-minded that could guide me and mentor me along the way. So that's absolutely imperative. Like if you want to be any kind of entrepreneur, find you some good coaches and mentors. Also, accountability partners are
Right.
huge, especially if you're somebody like me who likes to say I'll do it tomorrow. When you have an accountability partner that you meet with every week or every other week, and you're like, hey, this is what I'm going to get done, and then you got to show up and they'll be like, well, did you get it done? You're either going to say, yeah, I got it done, or no, and you're going to have to explain why you didn't get it done. Me personally, I hate saying, no, I didn't get it done. Well, this is what happened, and that. Now, sometimes obviously it's like legit, you can't get it done, but it kind of keeps you accountable. Exactly what it says. Accountability partner keeps you
Right.
accountable, keeps you moving forward. And the second part of that, COVID, a lot of people thought and think COVID was a bad thing. Now, obviously, there's the downsides to it. But for me, it kind of really boosted me forward.
Right.
And
Right.
it took me a little bit to get to understand that. At first I was kind of like, why, God? Why? Like, I was doing so great. And now look. But one thing it did was, hey, guess what? Now everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's sitting at home. And now then I was able to, attend a lot of courses. Everything moved online. So I was able to attend a bunch of courses that would have been in person that are now online. So that helped me out with like education gap. All these people that I need to talk to, guess what? They're sitting at home, twiddling their thumbs, got nothing to do. So I was able to reach out to people that were able to help me and get me in the right direction. And also working in the mental health aspect, it raised a lot of awareness to trauma and suicide. Well, hey, that's what I work with. So now there's a lot of awareness and people are focusing on it because of COVID. So in a lot of ways, COVID actually helped me out a lot. But I
Yeah.
think that all goes back to your mindset. You can either focus on the bad stuff or you can find the good in things. And even the worst situation, there's some goods to be taken away from it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Michael, I think for the most part, right, it all comes down to the mindset and what you were kind of alluding to earlier. Things don't happen to you; they happen sometimes. They happen for you, right? And you kind of took lead of that and kind of with the help of coaches and mentors and accountability partners, it's accelerated what you've always wanted to do, and that's give back to the veterans and the first responders. So let's go into that. Tell us more about the ranch and what you all do, and can you just describe some of the difficulties, the obstacles that you had to overcome to starting the business, and what are some of the most rewarding experiences that you've had since you started?
Yeah. So what I have right now is we're starting up still, and up until now, all I've done is like little work with veterans and first responders. I'll get messages and they'll want to come out and go riding. So I take veterans and first responders out on horseback rides. Sometimes people don't even want to come ride. I've had people that are just like, "Hey, can I come see your horses?" And even that's powerful and healing. So I have people that just come out and be like, "Yeah, come on," and they'll come out and just hang out with the horses for a little while, just pet on them, love on them, just hang out with them. And there's a quote that says the best Winston Churchill quote that says the best thing for the inside of a man is the outside of a horse, and there's a lot of truth in that. So that's kind of what I had been doing. Been building up to doing retreats where I take veterans and first responders out. We go camping for a few days. In that time, we engage in different kinds of outdoor activities like kayaking, fishing, hiking, and horseback riding. I've been building, obviously, like I've been doing this with practically nothing. So it's taken me a while to acquire all the assets. About a month and a half ago, I finally got the last piece I needed to get going. So we're ready to start doing those. I just got to get people to come on out. And then when I finally get some property of my own, plan to do horsemanship program where veterans and first responders can learn horsemanship. And at the same time, they'll be taking rescue and wild horses and rehabilitating them, getting them ready to be rehomed. Or if that veteran or first responder who trains that horse wants that horse, obviously we'll sell it to them at whatever cost we paid for them, which for those kind of horses is cheap. So that's kind of the goal, kind of what we're working on. One of the biggest setbacks is actually towards the beginning of COVID. I was land's not cheap, so that's
Right.
kind of the hardest thing with starting up something like this. Is unless you've got a lot of money or you've got somewhere you can go to do it, it takes a lot of money to get going. And I'd actually found a ranch in Colorado, which is where I had planned to start. And they were looking for similar programs, and we had gotten connected through a mutual friend. He said, "Hey, I think you guys should connect." And I was supposed to go out there and institute my programs at their ranch. So it was kind of definitely like a win-win for them and for me. It was great. Right before I was supposed to move out there, I get the phone call saying that they were having to sell everything and shut the ranch down because of COVID. because everybody was on lockdown. They couldn't, so they weren't making money. They couldn't sustain the ranch. So that was kind of a huge blow. Kind of was devastating for me. I found myself kind of just like, not feeling it, kind of feeling sorry for myself for a while. And then I actually, I had people who were reaching out like, hey, can you work with me and can you help me? And it broke my heart to be like, I can't. I like don't have anything. And finally, after like, I think it was probably the third or fourth person that reached out, I was like, dude, I'm tired of telling people no. Like, there's got to be something I can do. And so, I thought about it. I was like, well, I've got 2 horses. I was like, we can go horseback riding. And then I started to formulate how we could do this thing here with what we had. And that's kind of what got me started on this kind of improvised plan of getting stuff going here in Arkansas, which leads to the most rewarding part of it all. Kind of came full circle a few weeks ago. So that same police officer that reached out to me, who got me off my butt, she reached out because she was dealing with some family stuff and some family and personal stuff. She had a death in the family, and then her brother tried to commit suicide. And then the next day, her roof started leaking, and they found out her roof was about to collapse. So it was just like 3 events in 3 days, and she was really stressed out. Obviously, there's a lot of stress and struggle in being a police officer as well. And I was like, okay, I got to do something. I knew we couldn't do anything about the first 2 things, but I was like, well, she doesn't have the $6,000 for the material to fix this roof. I was like, we can raise $6,000. And I had recently partnered up with Project Refit. They're a great nonprofit organization that is focused around peer-to-peer support. And so I immediately called up James Corbett. I was like, hey, bro, told him what was going on. I said, we need to raise this, and we need to go fix this roof. And without even missing a beat, he's like, let's freaking go. And so, they raised the money. I think we raised about $8,500 for that roof. I went down to New Orleans, put together a team of volunteers from local churches. And in 3.5 days, we were able to take off the old roof and put a new roof on. And I'll say that it was frustrating. I'm not going to lie. 107 degrees in New Orleans and sitting up on top of a hot roof, it really gets to you. But then when you see, to see what we had done and accomplished, and the difference that it made in hers and her brother's life, it kind of just like hit home. And it was kind of like a nice reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. And I've been dealing with some stuff myself. I had a car crash about 2 months ago. Kind of rocked me, put me back in kind of a bad place. And even just for me, like it was healing for me, as well. So, it's just like one of those moments you're like, I guess when you just finally realize that this makes a difference, and that's just the first of many people that we're going to help along this journey.
Yeah, Michael, man, I appreciate you for sharing that story, and applaud you and your team, for helping out a fellow, a police officer who was in need. Going through all that, for anybody that might be listening, how can they? What's one actionable step that you can give them to help them out, who might be in the similar journey as you, like, trying to find their next mission, their next service? What's one actionable step that you can kind of give them to help them in pursuit of that?
Just one.
What's the first thing?
I'd say, man, definitely the first thing is Well, uh, like I found out along this journey, like when you're not doing well for yourself, the the best thing you can do is help somebody else out, and
Mm.
it's the most rewarding thing. I know that sounds backwards, like why would I help somebody else out when I'm struggling? But helping somebody else out really does a number for you, and it helps you out in the process. So yeah, that would definitely be the first one. Like help somebody else out.
So when you're not doing well for yourself, find someone else to help them out. Okay. And then one final question, Michael, before we go to our second segment of the podcast. What's one thing you want our viewers to take away, our listeners to take away from this episode?
Uh, well, I'd say my story's definitely been a story of second chances. There's a lot of times in my life that I've really been given second chances. Hence, kind of why I went with the name Second Chance Rehabilitation Ranch. Um, and I kind of live my life by the motto that every day is a second chance. There's something that you did today that you wish you didn't do, or something you didn't do that you wish you had. And instead of beating yourself up about it, when you wake up in the morning, go out there and do better. It's another chance to be better than you were yesterday. And even if it's just 1% better each day, over 365 days, that's 365% better. So just continue to improve. Definitely continue to improve and grow. And where I'm at now, when I started this journey, I never would have thought that I'd be where I'm at now as a person, as an entrepreneur. And I know where I'm at now is not where I'm going to be in 5 years, or
Right.
even then 10 years from then. So just focus on little improvements. You don't have to make big changes each day. Just go out there and try to get a little bit better each and every day.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Michael. And I think the key thing there, like what you said, is just be 1% better than your yesterday, right? And as long as we're above ground, like you said, every day, each day is a second chance to be better than your yesterday, to improve upon from your yesterday. And there's one day you'll find success, and success will eventually come and hunt you down if you keep doing that. And I think that's a great point, man. Okay, Michael, so going into our second segment of the podcast. So this is what I call the fast five, the same 5 questions asked all my guests. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, man. So first question, what's one hobby you enjoy?
Bull riding.
Bull. How did I know that? Second question, if you had to choose one person to hang out with for one day, who would it be and why?
I'd say Gary Sinise. Like I said, I grew up in a military family. So as a dependent of someone in the military, I saw as a kid all the work that he did for veterans. Besides killing it in Forrest Gump as Lieutenant
Lieutenant
Dan.
Dan, yeah.
So I always looked up to him, and as I've been along this journey, seeing, from a dependent and an active duty to now as a veteran, seeing all the work that he does for our community and the first responder community. He's always been a huge role model and an influence to me. So it would just be awesome to sit down in the same room with him one day and just have a conversation with him and just kind of learn from him, because I feel like I could learn a whole lot from him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer, man. I mean, Lieutenant Dan, Gary Sinise, he's not a veteran. I don't think he's a veteran, right? But he's given so much to the veteran and the first responder community. And yeah, same with you, man. I'd love to just hang out with him and kind of just pick his brain a little. Uh, Next question. Recommend a book for our audience to read.
I would have to say Way of the Seal by Mark Divine. It's a really great book. And the nice thing about it is like you can apply it to business, you can apply it to physical fitness, you can apply it to your spiritual, you know. It it's a well-rounded book that can help you in all aspects of your life. Definitely a book that I've read twice already, and I'll probably read it again. As I was writing it in there, I was like, "Yo, I haven't read that book in a while. I should probably go read it again." But it's a great book.
I'll have to check that out. Way of the Seal by Mark Divine. Okay. Michael, what's your favorite quote and why?
Yeah. So my favorite quote is a Desmond Doss quote.
Hmm.
It says, "If you've watched the movie Hacksaw Ridge, uh, pretty certain it's in the scene where he's in court martial, and they're like, 'Why do you care so much?' And he says, 'In a world so set on tearing itself apart, I don't see anything wrong with trying to put a little bit of it back together.'" And that quote applies so much today as it did then. You know, the world that we currently live in seems like it's trying to rip itself apart. So I just want to be able to try to put a little bit of it back together.
It's a great quote, man, and great movie as well. Um, Final question here, Michael. Where do you see yourself in a year, 5 years, or even 10 years from now?
A year, we'll definitely have this thing up and going, having helping hundreds of veterans. 5 years, definitely plan to have locations in several states, so that way we can impact other communities. And 5 years or 10 years, even more than that, I would love to have a center where we can reach the whole entire country as a whole. And somewhere between 5 and 10 years, instituting my programs, working with incarcerated youth, kind of helping giving them a second chance in life, getting them back on the right path, and setting them up for success in the future.
Love it, man. Michael, thanks again for coming on the show and sharing your story about of your service in the Marine, and then also your second service. And it feels like a lot of good things, a lot of great things ahead, man. And and whatever you do, the struggle will come, but I'm sure that you'll have success along the way. And best of luck to you. Best of luck to you, Michael. And one final thing before we go: where can our audience, where can they follow you? Where can they support you? Where can they find out more about the ranch?
Yeah, so you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can follow Second Chance Rehabilitation Ranch. We do have an Instagram page, but I'm not going to lie, I suck at Instagram. So there's not much on there, and I don't even know how to get onto my account. So I've got to figure that out here in the near future. Or you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram as well. And I
Awesome.
can give you those links so you can post them in there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, send them my way, and then we can post them on the show notes. Michael, thank you again for taking the time and sharing your story. And for everybody listening, make sure you guys check out Second Chance Rehabilitation Ranch on those platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn. Reach out to Michael on those platforms as well. And we'll see you all soon. Take care.